The row over ceasefire jurisdiction between the NSCN-IM and the Government of India seems to be intensifying as the Naga Hoho has asked the Government of India to clarify on the issue of ceasefire jurisdiction outside the state of Nagaland. Speaking to Northeast Live, Naga Hoho General Secretary Ilunadang maintained that as per the 2001 Bangkok Agreement, ceasefire provisions were to apply not only in Nagaland but also in areas outside the state having Naga settlements. The Naga Hoho General Secretary further condemned the gunning down of 6 NSCN-IM cadres in the July 11th Longding encounter in Arunachal Pradesh. And notably, the issue of ceasefire jurisdiction between the NSCN-IM and the Government of India has appeared to be emerging as a new point of differences between the two sides, negotiating for an acceptable solution to the Naga political problem for the past 23 years after the Longding encounter.
If we look at the ceasefire agreement, particularly the 2001 Bangkok Agreement, it is agreed upon by both the parties that the ceasefire coverage extends to wherever Nagas are. It is universal. But today, the interpretation of ceasefire has been said by many that it is confined to the state of Nagaland. This has raised mostly confusion within the neighboring states. It's high time the government has to be clear on this. If the government of India stands by the claim that they are seriously having talks with the Naga political groups. The recent incident in Arunachal is one where the armies have claimed that it is the Arunachal state doesn't fall under ceasefire coverage area. This is creating further confusions and conflict within the people and the army. We condemn killings, we condemn all sorts of atrocities, and I'm sure even the government of India goes by it. But to clear the claims and doubts of the people, government of India should immediately clear the ceasefire coverage so that misgivings can be contained at the earliest.
And while the Naga Hoho further demanded for revocation of notification issued by the Nagaland government, asking state government employees to furnish details of any family member or relative associated with underground groups. And reacting to the issue, Naga Hoho General Secretary Ilunadang said that successive governments in the last 70 years had never issued such a notification. He said that the notification amounts to threatening the welfare of government employees. Remember, the Nagaland government had clarified that the notification issued asking employees to furnish details of any family member or relative associated with underground groups was given out following directions from the governor's office. Ilunadang pointed out that the government's priority should be to facilitate and bring about an honorable solution to the decade-long Naga political issue. However, he said that things lately are moving towards a different direction. He alleged that while the government of the day should be advising the governor on the contrary, the governor is now giving directives to the government which he termed as unfortunate and unbecoming of an elected government.
See, for the last more than 70 years, the Naga political issue has been on. The whole world knows about the Naga political struggle for self-determination. Successive governments have come and left, but till today, no government have ever declared or issued such directives. This is very serious, and it even amounts to threatening the welfare of the government employees. The government's priority is to felicitate and bring about an honorable solution. However, lately things are moving towards a different direction. The state government have issued their clarification. However, it is noted with seriousness that the government of the day should be advising the governor. And on the advice of the cabinet, the governor should be giving his assent. But here, it is on the contrary. The governor have given directives, and without any proper deliberations, the government have issued issued directives to the employees. This is very unfortunate and unbecoming of an elected government. The elected government who represents the people should stand for the welfare and for the interest of the people, but not on the interest of someone else. This has to be seriously viewed, and the state government must revoke its decision to carry forward these directives.
Editor-in-Chief joining us live, Wasbir Hussain, to give his perspective on the ceasefire issue. Wasbir, do you think NSCN government ceasefire jurisdiction issue may impact the peace process now?
Well, Pooja, it has the potential to impact the peace process because, it has all surfaced once again after the July 11 Longding encounter in which 6 NSCN rebels were gunned down. So that brings into focus once again the ceasefire issue. But you see, when you go to the 2001 Bangkok Agreement, it was a ceasefire without jurisdiction, without territorial limits. But after that, within a few days of that Bangkok Agreement in 2001, there was absolute chaos in the neighboring state of Manipur, where there were protesters emerging on the streets protesting that the Naga ceasefire should be restricted only to the state of Nagaland. It cannot come out anywhere outside. On that day, there was police firing, several people died. So the government of India once again restricted the ceasefire to the state of Nagaland. After that, there was a lot of ambiguity, and it was not clear whether the 2001 agreement stands or not. But for all practical purposes, everybody thought that the 2001 Bangkok Agreement has been superseded by a decision that the ceasefire will be restricted only to the state of Nagaland. But there is a lot of ambiguity on that effect, and therefore now after the Longding incident, since the focus has once again come back to the ceasefire territorial limits, because the security forces maintain that the ceasefire is in force only in Nagaland, and therefore they had every right to challenge a group of armed men with sophisticated weapons, eventually leading to that encounter in Longding. So that is the argument given by the authorities, by particularly the security forces. So in view of this, the Naga organizations have stepped up their demand to ask this question as to whether the territorial limit is confined only to Nagaland or outside, and they are demanding that since there is an agreement the talks are going on with a group, the ceasefire cannot be limited to one state in the country. It has to be without boundary. Right. So that is the argument. Well, the NSCN has also demanded that argument. The Naga Mothers Association has also demanded a territory-less ceasefire, and now the Naga Hoho. So definitely, these are all respected and influential organizations, Pooja, and therefore their demand will have to be responded by the government in some way or the other. We'll have to, of course, wait and watch.
Wasbir, why is the NSCN-IM and the Naga civil society groups pushing the issues of truce and jurisdiction at this stage?
Well, that is very interesting, because we were given to understand that the peace talks were at an advanced stage, that it was about to be signed. And after the 15th August 2015, this framework agreement, there was silence for a long time. After that, things started moving and shaking once again. And on the 31st of October, it was declared, we were given to understand by the government sources as well as by the NSCN-IM that the peace talks have concluded. The only thing remaining was to sign on the dotted lines. Now the question is, why were these issues not raised if the talks had concluded in October last year? Why did this issue not come up then? So these are some of the issues to which we don't have a clear answer, or whether the Naga civil society groups or the rebel group thought that there will be no more encounter until the accord is signed. That may be one of the reasons. But it is very ambiguous at this point in time as to a lot of questions left unanswered, both by the government as well as the rebel group, as well as the Naga civil societies. So, but it is incumbent upon the government to now come up with a clarification as to what is the status of the peace accord itself, what is the status of the peace process itself, and whether these issues are going to come as a hurdle to the eventual signing of the peace agreement, which is actually overdue.
And Wasbir, the Naga Hoho has also taken exception to the government employees who may be members of rebel groups. So what could be the impact of this?
Well, you see, I heard the statement of the Naga Hoho General Secretary, Mr. Ilu Andang, where he said that for 70 years, nobody had asked any of the government officials to give a list or give details of any of their relatives or kin who may be members or associates of the rebel groups. But why suddenly? That is the question which the Naga Hoho has been asking. In fact, that is the question asked by other Naga civil society groups as well. We really don't know what prompted the government to have that list right now. But I remember the Nagaland, a bureaucrat, I think the Home Secretary in Nagaland, if I'm not mistaken, saying that these are routine matters. But, coming as it is, when the Naga talks are supposed to be at an advanced stage, when the accord is going to be signed, that was what we were made to understand. This raises several questions, whether the government has a lot of things to, get clarification from the rebel groups, and it appears as if the government is in no hurry to sign the accord, or it also even raises questions as to whether things may not be major, but whether some minor issues have happened in between, whether things have gone off track. But that is not what we want. We want the Naga Peace Accord to be signed as soon as possible, right, with an acceptable solution between the government of India and, of course, the Naga rebel groups. And, of course, let me also tell you that the interlocutor, who is also the governor of Nagaland, Mr. R.N. Ravi, is a very experienced person. He knows the Naga issue like the back of his hand. And why is the governor's office demanding some of these things is something which only the governor or the governor's office can answer. Until then, of course, there will be pressure mounting on the nephew Rio government as well. So nephew Rio government, of being the elected government, will have to also answer a lot of questions in the days ahead, because people will be demanding answers on this very, very critical issue.
All right. Thank you, Wasbir, for joining at this point in time and sharing your perspective on this big development.